born with KD, and Cliff Johnston is his grandfather. He's going to tell us all about PGD, which is an absolute miracle as far as I'm concerned. Cliff?
Isn't that the most beautiful little boy you've ever seen? And he's smart? Ask his grandmother.
He's wonderful, and there are some more photos of him on one of those little chips somewhere. It was meant to be in the yellow bag, it's not there. He's a little bit older now, just as delightful, and there's a good photo of him and me with a big fish when he took me fishing for my birthday. I would have loved to have had it up there, but perhaps another day. Liz and I are back in America for our 4th trip. We came to San Diego a couple of years ago and spent the rest of our holiday looking at the southwestern corner. We really enjoyed that, and we're back here at this conference now, and we're going to take 2 months to have a look at the eastern coast before we go home, and that's going to be a lot of fun. We had fun last time. We travel fairly slowly. We get to have a good look while we're here, and we're looking forward to the rest of our trip. Before the last conference, I'd never met anyone with Canadians. As a little boy, there were always fragile old gentlemen in the background when I was playing with my cousins, but I wasn't really interested in those old men. I was having more fun playing in the dirt with all the other little guys. And then when I was about 12, we left that part of Australia and I went to live somewhere else, and I never saw those old guys again. I knew that there was a family malady that those guys had, but I didn't think about it much until in my 30s when I got sick. And the rest is history. At the last conference, I finally met people with Kennedys. And you don't know how comforting and supportive it was to be in a room during the breakout session with a group of fragile old people and not so fragile old people, all with common problems. I'd never seen that, I'd never been part of it, and it gave me an opportunity to learn a hell of a lot about Kennedys and to feel that I wasn't alone. Before that, I'd been very alone. I knew I had an illness, no one gave it a name, and I just didn't know what I had, I didn't know where I was going. And after San Diego, I knew that there was hope. We didn't bring anything for the Dutch auction in San Diego, as Mike said, but Liz, being a problem solver, got on the hotel computer and tapped out a voucher. Mike and Paula bought it. I was the other bidder, Mike. I decided you weren't getting it for $50. You needed to pay a reasonable price, I think. And that was,
more than our money's worth.
and Mike and Paula came and visited us in Melbourne in December last year, and that was great fun. I got to see more of our city than I had in a whole lifetime of living there. We travelled, we saw, we talked, we laughed. Did we cry? I don't think we cried. But we had a lot of fun, and Liz and I learnt so much from being one-to-one with these two wonderful people, just talking and having fun and learning more about our predicament. We learnt so much that we decided we were going to come back here again this year and meet you guys. And I figure that while I can still travel, and while the insurance people will cover me for that travel, we'll keep coming back and visiting. The insurance people, every time I get it, for the last 4 times, after lots of rejections, I end up talking to a nice lady in India who got married on the 7th of August 4 years ago, which just happened to be my birthday. When I finally get to talking to her, I get insurance and I travel again. But that's probably not going to happen forever. She might get divorced and not like that Recently, Mike published a very kind article in the spring edition of the newsletter on his visit to Melbourne. In that article, he mentioned that Kelly, my daughter, had had a Kennedy's-free child through IVF and PGD. Out of the blue, I was contacted by a fellow Australian Kennedy sufferer after he'd read the article. He wanted information on PGD. His daughter had sought advice from her health professionals and had been told nothing about the option. He was surprised to learn about it from a fellow sufferer. Through this fellow, I'm now in contact with other Kennedy sufferers in Australia, and that's been good. And it was the newsletter, and I say congratulations on the newsletter. It's reaching people all over the world, and we're finding that we're not alone. I've been able to talk to others in Australia and give them help and advice, and that's been good. Now I suppose I'd better get on to the topic. Embryo screening. Perhaps my daughter Kelly and her husband Chris were the first people to use PGD for Kennedys in the world. PGD allowed them to guarantee that their child would be Kennedy's free by screening the embryos before they were implanted. PGD has been widely used for other fields over the last 20 years, but this is the first Kennedy's one that we know of. Mike and Paula met Max during their visit to Melbourne, and when Mike heard I was coming, he asked me to give an update on where Max is going. I'll apologise, I don't have any slides